Hey, what's happening? We are back, normally scheduled Pocket Change Market Report on a Saturday. Wow, we haven't seen one of these in a few weeks, but now we are back on track here with this one. Thank you guys for tuning in on the good old PCMR. Check that out, September 9th. We are a third of the way through the month. How the heck did that happen? Labor Day came and gone. Back to school for a lot of kids came and gone. Summer, yeah, we're still seeing a little bit of the old Indian summer pour in for a few areas. But boy, man, the coin world, the market, the hobby, just everything about it is just continuing to push on through. A lot of things going on in the community today. I believe this is the last day of the Long Beach Expo, happening as we speak, by the way. So if you're there, I hope you guys are having a good time and you guys are coming away with a few bangers. Funny because, some of those bangers maybe you probably bought unattributed as an error or variety. So a little savvy cherry picking can go a long way, especially if you're a reseller. Whew, some of these coins, man, are commanding some serious market activity. I like to kind of say some of it's a little volatile, but the volatility comes with a lot of general interest among the enthusiasts out there. So yeah, a good time to take advantage of it. We're seeing resurgence in some of the previously big error coins from the last few years, going all the way back to 2021. We might have one or two coins to talk about from this particular date range here today. Don't know. I kind of forgot what I put in here. But a lot of your market activity that's going to be displayed on this video are all within the last 12 to 24 hours. So this, my friends, represents the most up-to-the-minute market data. If you want something specific that you have and you want some information on the coin, and we have it here today, I'm happy to say that this is kind of like up-to-date information on how much you can expect to sell some of these coins for. Before I even get into this, someone on my Whatnot stream last night posed a really interesting question. What happened to the market for machine-doubled coins? Well, it's a very niche market. Okay, number one, there's going to be just a handful of people that actually collect the machine doubling type events, which as of now, they're neither an error or a variety. Some would consider it to be just die damage as a result of the wear and tear that these mid presses go through. So that is something to keep in mind. Again, it's incredibly niche, and there are only a few specific coins that are well known for really strong machine doubling that are actually selling right now. The 69S is a huge one, and a lot of that has ties to the actual FS101 double to die offers. Okay, so make sure you keep that in mind. And a lot of 69Ss do come up with machine doubling and that type of strike doubling. Another one is 57D. That Lincoln Sen right there, my friends, is incredibly potent just from its appearance when you see it for the first time. Boy, oh boy, that thing is powerful. And people are paying $10, $20, $30 for those coins because of how strong they are. But outside of that, we're not seeing a whole lot of extraneous market activity on any other coins. And you can find machine doubling on just about any denomination, any single coin, any one given date, But there are a couple that are more significant and kind of signify, they're kind of the trophy to this particular anomaly. So if you have these, keep in mind there's only a few select coins that are definitely selling right now for anything measurable, and it's a very niche market. There's going to be a few people that are very genuinely interested in these anomalies. All right, so a few little ground rules. We're already almost 5 minutes in. No graded coins. Don't pay for grading. Way too much. These coins sell for themselves. And number two, the pictures you're going to see here today are all original to the respective sellers' listings. We didn't juice or doctor anything. For our benefit, you're going to get the best and the worst images here in this video. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Let's see what we have. Now, I personally love this first photo layout. I like the way it all kind of is put together, but this is something that we see quite a bit of on the Kansas statehood quarters. But here we have a California. I believe it's the same year as well, 2005. It seems to be like some of the quarters from 2005 all suffered from this filled die issue, which turns In God We Trust into In God We Rust. And then there are certain other various types that you could find with multiple letters missing. And again, the actual letters in the die filled with grease and debris, thereby causing this issue where, you know, maybe a certain letter or something to that effect never gets struck onto the coin. All right, so just to let you guys know, that's kind of how that works. But you could also see, you know, even though the coin is a little bit circulated, you could see certain areas where there was some greasy issues on the reverse. You could see a little bit like right around here. But, you know, even for California, I know the Kansas is all the rage because that's what it's been known for. But this California sold for $15.25. I do believe it's a buy it now listing. So when you have these things, you're probably better off throwing it up for $11.99, $14.99, depending on condition, and just sit on it till someone buys it. You know, because we've seen a fair amount of them, as long as they're not priced too outwardly to where you feel like you know, it's more you're more ripping off your customers because of what it is. You know, like you can't go out and sell this for $30 unless it's like a Gem BU example. But, you know, I've seen people ask like $100 for these things, $200, and there's just no need for that because these are really plentiful. So definitely keep that in mind when you're going to price these things out before you list them. All right, the next coin that we have here is a copper-coated Zinken dated 1996 Lincoln Memorial Cent. This one is double struck, and the big reason why I added this one in here is that I have found a few of these, not only through shows, but also local shops will have these for a discount. Some people will sell them for a lot more than they're actually worth, but oftentimes dealers, they see things like this and they're like, well, it's, again, errors way too niche for a coin dealer to sell if they're trying to make money. They're more focused on precious metals and numismatic kind of like coins with no errors on them. So this one right here could be had for a bargain, but you got to realize how much something like this could sell for if your main motivation is to resell it. Now, the first rule of thumb is to find an example, whether that's an off-center strike or a double strike. Make sure you find one with a full date, because with a full date, these are collected by date for their type. So this one right here sold for $25.38. While it's an impressive error, do keep in mind the composition. This is not the most favorable type of composition for error enthusiasts, and they tend to avoid any of the post-1982 dated Lincolns because of that for errors. So keep that in mind. This one's really cool. This one was actually discovered earlier in the year, and we see these pop up so infrequently because I think these are a lot more tougher to find than originally meets the eye. I think the extra V type of the 2023 Lincolns actually show up in more greater quantities than this one. This is what we call the just the die crack going through the T and trust and into the fields. I've heard lightning bolt crack. I've heard T struck by lightning crack and various other things. I've heard them all, and they all fit, I guess. But this one right here, ladies and gentlemen, sees, you know, a little bit of action out there today in the secondary market. Unfortunately, as cool as it is, it doesn't quite realize the full potential of what these things could sell for. Like this one, for example, sold for only $4.49. You know, it must be a very light interest factor for these things. There are people that collect cuds and die breaks and things like that, and I would say, seeing as how this one's been out in circulation for 6 months or more, I think those folks probably got all the examples they need, and therefore any for future types that are found are not going to command nearly as much as they once did. These things, I remember seeing them going for 20, 30 bucks at one point, and that was very early on after release. Next one that we have here, it looks like a raised cud, but this is actually an indent, right? So it's incused into the coin. And this is caused by simply just two planchets or two coins overlapping, or a planchet and a coin overlap, and then struck a second time, or struck the first time, you know. So there was two coins overlapping, so there's actually a match to this coin somewhere out in the world, unless a mint employee caught it and then went ahead and canceled it into their batch of stuff that were going to be destroyed. 1985, it's got a full date, so it's pretty cool. And this one sold for $30.38. The same seller had probably 3 or 4 of them that all sold within the same range. There was one other one that where the indent was right over the date, so it wasn't readable. We don't know what the date is, and it sold for a little bit less, as expected. So this 1942D Lincoln wheat cent was originally being pitched on the seller's site as being a clamshell lamination. Now, a clamshell is a crack right on the very edge that virtually splits the coin in half on its edge. And it's a type of lamination. They call it a clamshell lamination. This one is, from what I see, does not appear to be a clamshell, because a lot of that lamination is on the face of the coin and it's not really on the edge. You can see maybe a little bit of it here on the reverse, but it's nothing too crazy that I would say indefinitely it is a clamshell. However, this one definitely deserves some recognition for its lofty sale price of $79.99, which even for a clamshell is generally above the market. You know, usually those are like $50 to $100. I know the larger denomination coins, like I just sold a candy $50 clamshell that was actually graded by NGC for right around $100. So they usually don't go up beyond that. Maybe an Ike dollar with a clamshell might sell for more, but those are quite scarce. The next one that we have here, anything that looks remotely close to being either damaged or pressed or smashed or anything to that effect, I want you guys to keep these coins to the side and consult someone. You could always email us at our live coin Q&A email. info@livecoinqa.com in case you need that. But this is a 1963D Jefferson nickel. This was actually struck on a thinner planchet. It's actually a lot underweight. It's probably end of the strip quality planchet, as the strips are being rolled out for processing before the planchets are punched out of them. It's probably really thin on the end, and that's kind of like what we're seeing here with this one. The mint presses are calibrated to strike coins at the specific thickness of that particular planchet. So nickels would be a certain thickness. If, say, there is a much thinner planchet in there, it's not going to strike it up all the way. And these, again, are mistaken as damaged. They're also mistaken as struck through grease, like heavy grease, and that's not what we have here. What's really cool is that the seller even provided this photo right here showing the weight, which is about 1.5 grams too light on this one. So considerably thinner, and it ended up selling for $78.88. This is such a really nice coin right here. And again, don't need to grade these. We have something here similar. However, this was not struck on a thin planchet because you don't have any general weakness on the obverse, just circulation wear. But this one was struck through what appears to be some debris and grease that was sitting on the reverse die, and this is kind of like what we have here on this one. It's quite strong, and this is something that I'm willing to bet that a lot of people certainly overlook. So definitely keep an eye out for things like this. You can find them on the obverse, although it's quite tough, seeing as how most mint presses have the obverse die as the hammer die. So that one, sits suspended higher, so it doesn't have a whole lot of time for the grease to actually stay in that area. This one right here sold for $12.38. Again, if you had paid 5 cents for this coin because you found it in a bag of wheat cents, That's a heck of a spin right there. So keep an eye out for these. You can find them all throughout every date of Lincoln Cent. Here's a coin right out of good old Grandpa's stash, according to the seller. Just throwing that out there. It's this is actually a tougher date than it looks like. Right, 1894. Indian Head Cent is a much lower mintage than all the other coins around it. However, this is a very strong repunch date, and even on a coin like this that has so much corrosion and pitting on there, you could still see the doubled top of the 4 right here, and then the top of the 9 right there. Again, this is one of the most recognizable type of varieties. Some would even say it's not cherry pickable anymore because everybody was searching, through Indian heads 10 years ago and had probably found most of what's out there. But even still, in a coin in this condition, it's great to see a $55 sale, which means that there's still a lot of hope for some of these coins that, maybe at one point were cast off, or maybe the condition holds it back a little bit. $55 is very strong money. 5 years ago, this would have been like a $10 coin, even with that variety on there. Oh, we can't forget about the different leaf variants on the Wisconsin statehood quarters. And again, just to kind of recap, you can only find these on the Denver minted examples. Both the low and high leaf variants were distributed in the Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas region of the U.S. As a matter of fact, this one sale here came from someone in Texas. All right, so, I would say about 80% of the sales that we've seen of either the low or high leaf raw coins have all come from that area. So this one, you could see the high leaf engraved circular anomaly right there. All right, which again, I've said it once, I'll say it again. I think that was put there intentionally in 2 different variants. Pretty cool still. And this one right here ended up selling 1 penny shy of a C note, so $99.99. Always good to see these still selling very strongly 19 years later. We have a couple very nice off-center strikes, and first one is a 68D. Really nice shape. This thing, I'm not going to complain too much about the look of the coin because it's like a nice, brilliant red. One little carbon spot on the Planchet part of the thing. But you have a full readable date and min-mark, and that's what matters most to collectors of this. And this one sold for $34.46 with 17 bids. And here's another one as well. These 60s and 70s dated off-center strikes are always quite coveted, especially when they come in still, exhibiting mint-state appearances to them, which this one clearly does. So it's generally probably more of a nice minty brown with little hints of red in there. 72D this time around, a little bit tougher date, and it's off-center by about 65%. And this one sold for $38.95 with 28 bids this time around. All right, seller threw this one up as a wood grain 1945S Lincoln Wheat Cent. And it looks just like that. And this is caused by simply an improper alloy mix. So the copper and a little bit of the tin or zinc that's in that composition didn't mix too well. All right, so you're going to get these wood grain striations on there, which are quite attractive, and people love collecting these. They're putting together dates, they're collecting and they're all quite unique in their own way, right? You're not going to find 2 that are the same exact kind of patterning. And that's, I think, part of the popularity of these is that you could find one date, like a 55S, for example, that looks wild and crazy and awesome. And then you find another 55S that's also woody, that's a look completely different in its patterning. And it's just, I marvel every time I see these things. So this one ended up selling for $16.98. Keep an eye out on this segment of collecting, because I think within the next 2-3 years, this is going to pick up a whole lot more steam as people look to branch out to different types of collecting that are, probably more affordable. And they're just gonna go ham on it, and then they won't be affordable for any longer. Similar to toned silver. how that market has kind of blown up in the last 10 years. Well, it took a little while before we saw our first piece of currency, but we do have one here. How about this $1 bill bearing a 1985 date on there? So we have some misaligned print. This is not a miscut because the overprint is perfectly centered on this this bill right here. It's that second print or the base print of the front of the note that was shifted. So the actual subject sheet was a little bit shifted in there before the printing occurred. When we look at the back, it's perfectly centered, so that debunks automatically the miscut argument, which I usually get one of every video. So in any event, this one right here sold for $46.79 with 33 bids. Again, super attractive type of paper money error that is coveted by a whole group of errors people, collector guys. Yeah, well anyways, enough about that. So I talked about this coin in a short video just a few short days ago, and all of a sudden, Edith Kanakaole quarters from this year getting a whole boatload of love, not only because of this thing, which is a serious strike through on the reverse, but also the amazing clash that you could find on the obverse, right in George Washington's like ear hair area right there. So yeah, I mean, nobody was finding jack diddly squat on these for, through the first like 90% of the life of when they were producing these, and then toward the end, now, they were finding the strike through and then the clash, and, pandemonium struck, and everybody is like mad dashing to own these things. So you could see the field restricted strike through going through pretty much dead center of the coin right there. And very attractive. This one sold for $21.11. These are been falling around that $20 to $30 mark. So keep that in mind. These things are not nothing, They will buy you and a friend lunch. So pretty nice one. 1941 Lincoln Wheat Cent. This poor old guy right here has seen a life. All right. It's not the best looking example. It's got little hits and pits and all that stuff all throughout the coin. But such a great date for identifying a couple specific doubled dies. This one is actually the FS101. Check out the doubling in Liberty. The B and E are especially strong here. The motto, "In God We Trust." So as you can see, the doubling there at the bottom of N and G and O. And then the date. If this was a much more better condition coin, you could see the notching and the splits in the date a whole lot better. You could actually see the fat kind of horizontal bar of the 4 right there, which helps support this particular variety. This one right here sold for $69, no pun intended. Quite small and easy to overlook. 1981 Denver. This is a Denver minted Washington quarter with a cud right on the reverse, right above the word United. All right, so it's not a rim cud. It started at the rim and actually goes into the top part of the design of the word United. All right, so it's a full-blown cud. Now, this is the least expensive cud that you'll find out there. It's not worth zero. That I can tell you. This one right here ended up selling for $16.99. Even cuds this small and innocuous and easy to miss, still has a little bit of value. So don't toss these aside. Don't cast them away as junk or worthless. When you convert 25 cents into, $15, 60 quarters, that makes it all the more worthwhile. Oh, here you go. We were bound to find one, and here's one of those clash die Edith Kanakaoles. And this is not the strongest example I've seen in a while. Kelly's Treasures ended up finding a whole cache of these things at their strongest, and this isn't even one of Kelly's listings here. This is someone else. But you can see part of Edith's name clashed right here in the ear hair area of George Washington. So be on the lookout for this one. And this one, folks, sold for $33.20. So that is phenomenal. That is a really good deal right there. Probably one of the biggest items sold here in the last day has to be this 3-note error set. My goodness. I think it probably realized the full market potential, so I wouldn't necessarily buy this to flip. You could make a few dollars, but the likelihood of that happening is not really there. So right off the bat, it did sell for $570.25 with 17 bits. So the jig is up. There's no secret to this lot. It commanded really strong fair market. The top note, the $1, has a front to back wet ink transfer. It's about 80%. Very attractive, very nice high-end note. The second note, the $5 Fed Reserve note, has a back to front wet ink transfer. All right. So with those transfers, you got to make sure that secondary impression is mirrored. It's backwards for accuracy and legitimacy. And then finally, the bottom note, that beautiful, wonderful $10 bill, I'm sure soaked up a lot of the value of this lot. Check out that misaligned reverse. My goodness. That is one of the strongest I've seen. All the while, the front of the note looks innocent enough that anybody would overlook something like this. But I'm telling you, look at both sides of the note. You would be surprised what you'll find. So yeah, $570 strong on this one. Sign me up. This is a gorgeous lot. A really nice lot here too. There's a lot of 7 off-center struck Washington quarters. All right, so there's the bottom right, the 1 lone silver, 1964. That one's really pretty. There are also represented in the group. There's one of each of a 1994 and also a 1989, and then the other few coins are 1983s, which are quite common. So pretty big sale here, $242.49 with 18 bids. Let's do a little bit of math here. I mean, each coin looks like it's sold for, on average, what, $36, $37 a piece. So if we were going to try and do a power play here, buy this and then resell them individually, you have to feel confident in asking about $59.99 for each of the clad off-center struck quarters. That's where you're going to need to be to make money on this deal. And that might be overshooting it a little bit. I think that's a little bit high in the market. However, that silver right there on the bottom right-hand corner looks true blue. It doesn't look cleaned or anything. It's got some luster on there. And it's a silver. You know, maybe that one might be more of a $100 bill type coin, maybe higher than that. You know, and that's just me spitballing. I didn't even do any research as far as how much these have sold for. I talk about 1983 off-center quarters all the time, and they do. Some of them do well, some of them don't. So, you know, again, it's about who's in the room when someone's bidding on these and how thirsty they are to own it. All right, so there could be some possibilities here to make money. But again, at the end of the day, make sure you're doing your homework. If you see a lot on eBay that you want to go after, I want you guys to take the time to actually research each of the coins, because we need a real profit margin here to be successful. So keep that in mind, and you should do no wrong here. Now, this is spectacular. A nice red-brown 1907 Indian head cent. Has a pretty nice clash on the obverse there. The seller even mentioned a few die cracks as well, although I don't see too much of that anywhere on the coin. So there's a little bit of your clashing right above the headdress there. And, the coin ended up selling for $80.50. Not a whole ton of premium on the clash, because I firmly believe that this is a very common date, and normally that would be kind of like the price value that you would expect for a coin in this condition. Someone had sold a 3-roll lot of 2023s, so we're extra V hunting here, and that's kind of like the promotion that these sellers are doing when they're encountering these solid 2023 Philly rolls. They're putting in the extra V hunt as kind of like the main keywords in this. And these rolls will certainly do well. Now, there was someone that sold a lot of 5, and this person that sold a lot of 3. And I can tell you this right now, based off of weight, it's going to be better for you to sell in lots of 3. lot of 5. The guy was asking $17 for shipping, and you're kind of stuck having to pay that. So this one right here, the 3-roll lot, ended up selling for $21.05 with 12 bids. Keep in mind, that's $1.50 initial investment on this. So this person would probably end up profiting about $13, $14 by the time it's all said and done. So that's after shipping and eBay fees. So that's not a bad way of kind of supplementing your eBay store by selling rolls of Lincoln cents, especially the hottest ones going right now. Here's another misalignment. Man, much similar to that first one that we saw earlier. So the second print, that base black print, is misaligned up a little bit. When we look at the back, it's okay centered, you know. It's got a fatter bottom margin. This note right here sold for $128.88. So quite a bit more than the first note we saw, but very similar at that. So I don't know. Probably the first guy got a much better deal here. This person bought it as a buy it now listing. So there you go. And the biggest piece of currency I would say this week individually, that three note lot was just breathtaking. This one here, 1995 $5 Fed Reserve note, has no overprint on the front because the sheet was backwards. So all the overprint was printed on the back. We've seen these quite a few times, graded and ungraded. And again, it really makes no difference what you want to do with these things. You can grade them and spend that money, and that's less money you'll make in the end. Plus, you got to wait 4 to 6 weeks for the note to come back. So this one right here, friends, ended up selling for $423 as a buy and now grab. Man, just crazy. We don't get to talk about Henning counterfeit nickels here that often, but we do have one. This is one of the tough ones here. 1944. How you know that this is a Henning? Well, it's a 44. It's supposed to be a Silver War nickel. It's supposed to have that big giant mint mark right above the dome of Monticello. This one does not have it. And it's not silver. So that pretty much seals the deal is what we have here on this one. And usually Henning puts a little loop at the bottom of the R as kind of a calling card. You know how counterfeiters, if they're feeling kind of like passionate and wild about their craft and maybe a little bit, I don't know. They like to put little nuances on there as kind of a calling card to their work. They're just vain that way. And ultimately, that's kind of a way for some of these people to get caught, is when, Secret Service and FBI agents, come across these little nuances. And, they just follow the trail. So, it's fine. I mean, these contemporary counterfeit Henning nickels are wildly popular. Again, a little bit of a niche market, all right? There's a group of people, and there's actually a couple new people that have come in to bolster this particular segment. Joe Cronin is one of those guys. He's one of the foremost error experts in the community today. Has now gotten into Henning nickels, so you guys watch out. There's some pretty stiff competition out there. $269.99 with 3 bids. Sounds like a top 3 rarity of the Henning group to me. That's a huge sale. And a final coin. The seller had 3 of them available in Dutch buy it now type style auction, where there's 3 available. You just go in and buy it whenever you want. This is the Extra V. And boy, is this coin gorgeous. Like, the fields are predominantly clean on this one. This is certainly a grading candidate, for sure. And this one lone coin here is sold for $113.40. He or she had 3 of them available, and that person has since sold out of these premier looking coins. So, obviously, the big gameplay with these is to send them off to the graders. Because Annex, NGC, and PCGS will attribute these with the Extra V, which is right next to the VDB initials there on the right. And we've seen Mid-State 66 coins sell for like $400 or $500. And those big-time 67s, I think we had 2 of them that sold for over $1,000. So yeah, there's a lot of money to be made here with these things. Um, just to let you guys know that there is money to be made in a hobby at the click of a mouse button, or a swipe of a finger. You could certainly do that with these, but not everybody knows about them. So yeah, if you do it, best of luck. But that's it. That's your PCMR for your Saturday. Of course, we got to go through the trouble of letting you guys know that this is for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Collect responsibly and grade responsibly if you must. But enjoy it at a grassroots level, and then you can do all the other things really well. All right, so understand the hobby from an educational standpoint, get started there, and then branch out. That's going to go ahead and wrap things up for today, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning on in on this video. I'm your host, Sean, with BlueRidgeSilverhound. Keep it classy. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the video today, or the channel if this is your first time here. So I am out of here. Good luck with all of your cherry picking for those of you doing the Long Beach show. Have fun. Enjoy the hunt. And I shall see you guys here real soon. Have a great weekend.